means reasonable. He should be a reasonable man, someone you can talk to or reason with, not a brawler. He should not be a contentious person. Men who are constantly stirring up trouble in the church should never be selected as church officers. Not covetous, again refers to the love of money, but it also suggests an idolatry, actually the worship of money. He should not be a man who puts the pursuit of wealth above everything else. Verse 4, one that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. First Timothy chapter 3 and verse 4. An elder should have the authority in his own home without being a dictator. Verse 5. For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of God? 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 5. A man does not know how to rule the house of God if he cannot rule his own home. Verse 6. Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride, he fall into the condemnation of the devil. First Timothy chapter 3 and verse 6. Not a novice means not a recent convert, not someone who has recently been saved. Sometimes a man is converted one week and the next week he is made a church officer or asked to give his testimony. He is not ready for it. This is a caution that needs to be healed today. That's one of the things I found with Celebrate Recovery. I remember, bless Joey Sims' heart, he had all good intentions down at the mission, but he would ask people to give their testimony with just a few months of sobriety. We require at Celebrate Recovery that you have a year's sobriety before you give your testimony, and there's a reason for that, is because you're liable to relapse. I saw it over and over again. Every person that he asked to give his testimony only had a few months of sobriety relapsed. Over and over again, I would see that, and I learned very quickly that this was before I learned it is a guideline, a DNA of Celebrate Recovery, which keeps the participants safe. That's the difference between Celebrate Recovery and other organizations, as we have guidelines and DNA that we follow to keep the participants safe. And one of those is not to allow a novice to give his testimony. It's too hard, even for those of us who have years of sobriety. The devil attacks you so hard. I had the privilege of several years of teaching the Bible study group of Christians in Hollywood. And again, that's McGee and not me. It was natural for them to want to push to the front some prominent personality who had recently made a decision for Christ. However, the cause of Christ is hurt when those who are young in the faith attempt to speak on matters of doctrine about which they are not knowledgeable, lest being lifted up with pride, he fall into the condemnation of the devil. Pride was the devil's great sin. Also, it is often the sin of officers in the church and the preachers. It is a danger for all of us, but it is reprehensible when it is in the church. Verse 7, moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without, lest he fall into reproach, the snare of the devil. First Timothy chapter 3 and verse 7. Them which are without means those who are outside the church. In other words, if a man has a bad reputation on the outside, if he doesn't pay uh, his bills, is untrustworthy, or is a liar, he immediately is not the candidate to be an officer in the church. If he is such a man, he is really a candidate of the devil. He would better represent the devil than he would the reputation and the cause of Christ.